Well, that's good. I'm glad. It sounds like at least she's in a nice home.
Mm-hmm.
Is Haley?
Hey, I think I'm back. I think it's recording.
Yeah, it said.
I think we're good to go.
Okay, awesome.
Oh,
And
boy.
Yeah, I'm back.
Perfect.
all right.
Good job troubleshooting, y'all.
Okay. All right, the transcription's going. We're getting it, man. We're okay. We're here. We got it.
Oh yeah. Hi, Miss Corine. It's Brittany. I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
So this is Alana, and the first kind of section we wanted to talk about and hear a little bit more about was really just starting with like early childhood life. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about your siblings, like how many siblings, what your relationship was like with the different siblings. I think you had said you're the youngest, and just curious to hear more about memories of like what kind of routines or activities do you remember doing all together?
Okay. One of the things on that one, I can't say that I had any activities, so to speak, because by the time I was the youngest, and we were 10 living children, but I don't remember living in the same home at the same time as my older brothers and sisters. By the time I could possibly do anything with them, so to speak, they were out of the house, married or living elsewhere. So I didn't get to do a whole lot with them, but when they were married and those that lived near me, at that time we did kind of, I could go to them, or they could help me introduce me to things that I needed to, because my mother was not able to. And so they were there for me that way. They, especially one sister, the one younger that was right 5 years older than me, when she got married, she built a house right across the street from us. So that was real helpful, because she was there for me, most of the time. Even though she had her own little family, she made room for me to just, for whatever my needs were, if there were any, whenever she was there for me. But the others, we visited like every once in a while, or they came over to mom and dad's, and I don't know, because they were older and I didn't remember living in the same house with them. It was not the same as like with my sister that was living across the street. We were in and out of, they were in and out of mom's house, and I was across the street a lot. And I helped with her little children. So, but the older ones were, they kind of lived away, a few miles away, where I didn't have any activities or any kind of visitation with them as much. But we always respected each other very much. I remember one time my oldest sister, she lived a little bit closer at the time, and I remember being disrespectful to her. And oh, my mom whipped me, and then she told me that I was never to speak to my sister this way. And oh boy, it's I had to have respect because she was older than me, and this kind of stuff. And I still remember that spanking. I still remember that. I always, after that, knew what to do as far as respect, with my elders or the ones older.
Was that the sister you mentioned was living in either Iowa or Illinois for a while?
Illinois. No, this is the oldest of the oldest.
Oh, okay.
She lived a few miles from us, and
So how many siblings in total do you have?
how many? Let's see, we were 10 brothers and sisters. So there were 5 girls and 4 sisters, 4 girls, excuse me, 5 brothers and 4 sisters. But the thing about it, one of them died when he was young. And so I think he was like 18, and I never really got to know him. I was about 2 years old when he died. So I really just knew, the older ones.
Sorry to hear about your brother. Well, to shift gears a little bit to a different question about childhood. So when you think about growing up in Dulac and on the bayou, what were some of the most special or unique memories? So if you were imagining talking with someone who grew up in another part of the world and have never heard of Louisiana, has no idea what to imagine, what kind of things come to mind when you describe what made it special or unique to grow up there?
Well, I really, I maybe didn't understand appreciation for your hometown or community back then, but I know now that I remembered that I was happy most of the time, and there was always somebody there. The whole neighborhood where I was raised took care of each other's children, or so looked out for each other's children, and so families were close. We pretty much looked out for one another, and I think that means a lot to children as they're coming up. And I think that we were happy, even though we were poor. We didn't know we were poor, so poor. So we were happy, and we just had did things that maybe other community people didn't do elsewhere. But I think anybody that would come, like for instance, the missionaries, when they came down there, a couple of them, they just fell into the community, just like they just took up whatever we did as a way of life. They fell into it and just enjoyed the present life as it was for us, even though we didn't have much. They appeared to be very happy to learn a new way of doing something. And I remember those days of especially when other people would come in and were curious about us, even though some people might not like it. I kind of enjoyed it. It was seeing other people from somewhere else, and so anytime somebody new from out of town or somewhere would come by, it wasn't always bad. Most of it was good. They interacted with us in the community, and it was good.
One other quick question for early childhood that I just remembered I wanted to ask. Do you remember how old you were when you moved from, you described, like when we asked about one of your first childhood memories, you described the property, living at the overseer's property and in that big house.
Yes.
How old were you when you moved?
I must have been about 5 or 6.
Okay.
5 and 6 or somewhere in that age.
And then you moved down to the house that was near the community center on the point.
Yes. And that's where really my life began. Because just speaking about what you just asked me, once the Dulac Indian Mission was in place, um, they offered services to us that kept us busy, and I loved it. We really had good years there, and I think anyone that you will talk to that was ever there at that time, say early 50s, they really will tell you the same thing. They just really enjoyed the what these people helped us with, whatever, whether it was community activities or just being kind to us, or teaching us, or whatever it was. Those were good days when these people came and devoted their life to a few years of their life to help us, you know, um, to just have some good memories.
I think that's a good place to start. I know a lot of what you talked about in the other interviews had to do with the Dulac Community Center and how it started, and then who was there, and then kind of about your early school life with Miss Hooper. Could you give us like a quick story about that?
So when I moved from this overseer's house, when we moved down to Lower Dulac, that's where I had my first school. There was with Wilhelmina Hooper, who was I guess you could say they called them US2s, which they worked for the church. She wasn't a missionary, but she was someone that worked with missionaries as, I guess. And she lived in a house where my older brothers, they all had attended school in that house, because this is before the school board came in to give us any kind of education. So she opened her home to make classrooms to have us. And this is where most of the Dulac community there in Lower Dulac attended her school. And so that was my first school, was in this lady's house. And it was good. And they started out in she started when my brothers and sisters were, oldest brothers and sisters were young. They started in this lady and some other people from the Methodist Church started a schoolroom in an old ballroom that somebody wasn't using, and they fixed it up and opened it up, one of the rooms there, to teach our Indian people. And quite a few kids were in attendance, so they decided it was worth raising funds and getting see if we could start to have school in a better place. So that's when she came up with the idea to purchase that house, that overseer's house. It was beautiful and had great big rooms. And so she purchased that house, and that's where the years that I was coming up, I followed after the older ones had gone through her school. Then because my brother, I remember one of my older brothers, he went up to about the 3rd grade, and thank God Miss Hooper's teaching was there for him, because later when he was about 17 or 18, he went into the service, World War II. And if he had not learned how to write, my parents probably would never hear from him for when he was away during the war. So even though it was just 3rd grade education, he had learned to write. And while he was overseas, mother would get letters all the time from him. And we sure thank the Lord about that. And then that, even though I was a child, that etched in my mind how there's always a way, some kind of way, there's a way. And so all the other people in the community too, they got their first bit of taste of education right there in that house. And so from there, I guess we outgrew the lady's house. Well, then the mission raised funds to build an industrial school, they called it at first. But it was once it was up, they had this building built on pylons, a wooden structure, and they had 2 big schoolrooms and maybe 3 schoolrooms, yeah. And then they had an apartment for the people that would come in to teach, to stay there as teachers. And they offered all kinds of activities for the whole community. And that was the Dulac Indian Mission. And then it went on for years to where it provided for the people of Dulac. And they even brought in a nurse, and she would have a little clinic down there, and we got our vaccine and whatever at the time. And anytime a little baby was born, they always collected a lot of baby clothes and went out in the community and made a gift to the mama of the new baby, and just different things they worked into the community. And so I went to school there till about the sixth grade. And then that's about the time Terrebonne Parish School Board came in to offer us a building across the street from where the Dulac Indian Mission was. And then after a while, we all transferred over there. So what they were doing was to eventually get everybody out of the Dulac Indian School and prepare us to move into the actual new building that the school board was finally giving us, assuming their responsibility to give us some education. So I made the transfer to the new building. I guess I must have been about in the 6th grade. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on mute. So I had a question. It sounds like from what you're saying that Miss Hooper's house, you said that Miss Hooper's house was the overseer's house, or Miss Hooper was living in the
Yes.
overseer's house? Okay.
Yes, she was living in there. That was her home. And evidently there was a plantation years before there in the Dulac area. And in fact, I kind of was looking for some material and talking about it in the story I'm writing about my family. And there was a plantation that had been there in Dulac, a big plantation owned by somebody. And she, but for some reason, that house was no longer going to be used. So that's where she moved in and bought it and turned it into a schoolhouse and a Sunday school class. The classrooms were held in there because there was a little Methodist church they built right next door to that house,
Gotcha.
right there in the community.
But that's a different house than the overseer house that you grew up in before you guys moved to Dulac.
Oh, yes, that's a different house. Yes,
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. I think Brittany had some questions about the Methodist Mission. Methodist.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Because I was wanting to know, because I did some research on them, and because in the previous interviews, you had mentioned that you taught at the class, Giving Our Hearts Away by Thomas.
Oh,
I can't remember
yes.
his last name right now. Yeah. And I was wondering, because that's really unheard of for for a lot of Christian faiths. I know a lot of different Christian faiths, they'll do missions on a reservation and things like that, but they don't really teach classes about how to be culturally sensitive to Native American communities. So I researched it and I saw that the UMC has like a resolution to be, to say about how we're going to give reparations and reconciliation to our part in Indigenous genocide and things like that. And I thought that was really cool. And I'm thinking that's probably why they, them amongst all the other faiths actually went down to the bayou and did the school and eventually was raising money for you to go to the boarding school in Georgia.
Uh-huh.
Did you know about that as a child, or like did they mention it? Did they say this is why, or
No.
no?
As far as the school thing, when I was done with the 8th grade, there was no plans with my family or anybody to go anywhere. But all the time, the director and his wife from the Dulac Community Center Dulac Indian Mission, kept talking to me about would I be interested in going? What are you going to do after the 8th grade? And I don't know. And the only things that women did was to go work in the factory, the shrimp plant, and get married or clean houses or, something like that. And I really didn't know. I really, really didn't know what I was going to do. And they said, well, would you like to stay in school and maybe go further, and I said, yes, I would like that. I don't want to quit school. I don't want to finish here. So they said, well, we know of they didn't really pound it into me. They just introduced it little by little, telling me about this school in Georgia. And of course, I knew of 2 other girls from Dulac. They lived right there in my neighborhood that they had sent to school ahead of me. One did not stay. She just stayed a few weeks and came back. And then the other one, though, who happened to be my neighbor, Eva Dean Underwood, she lived next door to me, but she was older than me. She was 5 years older than me, and she was more my sister's friend at one time, good friend. They were raised right there together. Well, they sent her on to Thomasville, to Vashti High School, and she stayed the 4 years. And then for her graduation, because the director and his wife kept talking to me about sending me, they could help me to go on to school. Well, they decided the good idea would be to take me to see Eva's graduation, because I had no idea what a graduation was. So they took me with them when they attended the graduation. I thought that was amazing. So when we got back, and they kind of still talked about school, and finally they talked to my parents, but they asked me first, do you really want to go? And told me how it would be, and this is the place you would go. I kept saying yes, oh yes, I was excited. I just was, So, but my parents, it wasn't too easy because they didn't understand. They didn't know where I was going. They had never been away from any further than New Orleans. And it was a tough decision, especially I think my mother. I know for my son, if I had to put him on a bus and send him halfway, all the way in another state at the age of 12 or 13, I just don't think I could have done it. But she had to make a decision. Either I stop there and not get any education at all, or take this chance. And these people were good people. They had already been good to us through the years. So I guess she was comfortable with them and their word. So they got me ready, and that fall I went to school in Georgia. And
How did those so it was the community center director and the wife, you said, that were the ones that introduced you to the school. Do you know how they like, how did they have a relationship? How did they know about that school if that was the one they also had?
Well, for one thing, they knew about Eva that went ahead of me. And another thing, they were both Methodists and grew up with the conferences. There were people that were involved into the Methodist Church, to the point where they would attend these conferences and knew about all these schools around the, and back in the 50s and 60s, boarding schools was more plentiful than they are now, of course. And a lot of the church organizations and people like that had, I guess, schools up and running, and other than public school. And but they were deep into the Methodist Church to know they played a big part in the Methodist Church, but they didn't really push it on me. They just kind of, it was up to me, you know. They knew because they had already got two other girls interested and they didn't stay, because my cousin also went with me and she didn't stay. We got up there, we went together, but she didn't stay but 2 weeks. And I'll never forget when the day they decided to go ahead and let her go back home, somebody came to pick her up, and I watched her get in the car, waved to her, hugged her, and told her goodbye. And I watched that car go as far as I could see, because I was going to be left totally alone in this place. But I don't know, the girls were friendly and I liked it, and I stayed the 4 years. You know, I would go home at summertime, Christmas, most Christmases and Thanksgiving. I made friends with some of the other girls, and a couple of the girls had parents, and I don't know why they were at that school. I'm not sure, but I would go and with them to visit their relative or whatever. They would invite me to go home with them. So it worked out real good. But going back to, is it Brittany that asked me about the Methodist?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to say this. What happened there? I like I said, never taught a class of I taught Sunday school. I helped with that, but never a group of women. And one of my friends from here invited me. Well, I was already a participant with the United Methodist Women as I got to working with the church and all. So one day, there were, every year we'd go to some little conference and stuff like that. Well, she asked me to come to this conference. No, they were looking for a teacher for a Native American. They were going to get 3 people, and they had a person from another tribe, and she was African American and poured into another tribe, her heritage. And then a young man from somewhere here in Louisiana that I think he married into an Indian family, and then it would have been me. And I'm telling you, they really had to do some talking, because I was scared to death. And I said, I've never taught a class. This is too many. And these are grown women. They know so much more than I, college graduate probably, and whatever, I was just scared to death. But my friend talked me into it. So I saw the book, I saw what it was offering and everything, and then I saw a place where I could tell about my people. So when I could tell about my people, I thought, gee, I could do something with this. I wasn't sure what, and I just had to pray that it was the right thing to do. So anyway, and the ladies were so good to work with, and they kept telling me, you're not going to believe it. You get up there and you tell your story and do the rest of the book, whatever you have to do, and it'll work. You've got so much to tell, blah, blah, blah. So sure enough, I took it on. Do you know that 30-something women signed up for this? I have to laugh because I'm still in shock from every time I tell this story. 30-something women signed up to come to my class, and I had to have them do activities, hands-on and stuff, and then a lot of other things. And I loved it. And so that's the way it went. And we ended up with a good, a good class, and I guess I did all right because I kept, people letting me know that they didn't know this and they didn't know that, and about our culture and so on. And so I guess, it went well. So that is a thing in my cap that I really, glad I got to do. And I've never heard them do another one like it. Now, from that, I have to say, and this is not a criticism, it's just a statement. And we were supposed to, for each woman that attended that class was supposed to go out in their community and tell about what they've learned. And the woman that represented us at my small church, she was supposed to come back, and then I could go ahead and tell my story or whatever it is here at my church with her. Well, she kept telling me, she was the head of the women's group. She kept telling me that I was going to be able to. She's going to get it set up. She's going to have me come in and talk to these women here in the community. It never happened. And of course, I was the only Native American person in my church, at this little church that I was attending. And but she just never did bring it forward. And I didn't ask because I felt like with all these years and all these classes and all these, they knew, they lived with, they knew. They had to ask me, they had to give me, open that door for me. And by now, every door should be open. And they didn't, so I didn't push it on them, and it never happened. So now the First Methodist Church, which the larger church here in Houma, they had me over and several times to talk to the congregation, have a little talk about my culture. And, but the smaller church, I just didn't make any headway with them, even my own. So, that's the way it goes. You win some, lose some. But it does still hurt sometimes.
Miss Corine, what was the name of the school in Georgia again?
Vashti, Vasti.
Okay. Do you know if there were other Methodist private schools like that at the time that other Native students were
For
going?
other Native, yes. From what I understand, and I just learned this a few years ago, and I've gotten acquainted with some of the students, former students from there. The Baptists, the Pointe-au-Chien area has a large number of people, Native people who are Baptists, and they attended a Baptist school in, I don't want to say it's Alexandria, but it's somewhere in that area. There was Lafayette, Eunice, I think it was in Eunice, Louisiana. I'm sorry, I had my place mixed up. And they attended school there, and a few of them graduated from there. Then, let's see, that was the Baptist. And I know there's another school or another place where some of the other, now the Catholic Church, what they did, they would mostly get the boys. And of course, they wanted them to be priests. And I know Kirby Verrett started out where he, was an altar boy, and then they helped him, I guess, get into Vanderbilt kind of way. I mean, he has his own story on that, but he was going to become a priest, or maybe the idea was put across to him, and but the funny part about it, he, I think, attended the little Baptist elementary school in Dularge. So but really his parents raised him Catholic. And then anyway, he went to Vanderbilt. That's a high school, Catholic private school. But it's different than like a mission school. And then, but outside of here, to go to an actual school just for taking in Indians, I think it's that one in Eunice, and I have some pictures or something on it. And there is another one, but I can't recall right now. Oh, and then one of our people from Pontchartrain became, what is his name? Father Rock Nakan. He became a priest as a young man from Lord Pontchartrain. He was sent away to school here and there until he, and you know, went through his high school education and college, and while he was in the priesthood. And he, let's see, he went to this one place, and I know he was gone a long time, and when he came back, he had a Spanish accent with his French, because he speaks French so well. And anyways, it was kind of funny. But he still lived on the island when he came back and retired, and then took in. He became a priest here at one of the local churches, and he lived in his mom's old house on the island. I thought that was interesting. And I think he's got a little dementia now and not doing, that's great, because he's up in age now.
So it sounds
Ooh,
like
okay.
if a child wanted to continue with their education, they had a couple of options, but it was primarily through the church or varying
Church, yes.
church communities. Okay.
Yes, because the church, really and truly, the Methodist Church is the one that first gave us our first education. Really and truly, most churches, that's what the natives had to go through, is the church. If you know, they were the first to offer us education, and you know, it wasn't the school board. You know,
And
the parish,
when you went to church in Georgia, that was through the Dulac Community Center's connection via the Methodist Church. And that
yes.
particular school, was it Methodist in any way? Did the curriculum have any sort of religious component?
Not the school. Well, the school, yes. Let me say this. We, as I remember now, we had to take a course. Bible was like a class. I mean, it was what's the word? It's, you know, we had to take that as a course and then pass it. I mean, it was part of our. Golly, I'm losing words here. Y'all help me here.
Required
curriculum. It was one of the curriculums that we had to acquire, you know, is to be able to know. And right after I took, I'm telling you, to this day, I mean, now I know my Bible pretty much because I studied it on my own. And then, you know, I was affiliated with the church for so long here and had to do all of this. But sometime after I graduated and later on for a few years there, there's no way I knew all that stuff about the Bible, you know. I mean, I couldn't even remember what I had studied. I really couldn't. But today it's different because I did it on my own, and then I'm into it more daily than I, you know. But yeah, that was a requirement. Yes, indeed. But and then too, the churches, we had to go to a Methodist church. I mean, they just, you know, we had 3 churches that we could choose from, 3 churches, but they were all 3 Methodists. A small, tiny, small church in that town of Thomasville, a middle-sized church, and the big First Methodist Church. I went to the big First Methodist Church. Well, they assigned us, and if we weren't happy, we could say we wanted to go to a smaller church. I liked the big First Methodist Church because for the first time I saw food. You know how the churches, have a day on the Sunday once a month. They would have these tables out on the grounds where everybody brought a dish of food and on and on. I had never seen that at home, and I had never seen so much food in all my life. My eyes just, I think they stayed big because of that. It was just so wonderful to see all this food and all these desserts and everything that I never saw in my life. Now here I was, what, 12, 13 years old, and had never seen that much food. And it was really funny.
Sounds like you
And I took advantage of it. By the time I was a sophomore, you couldn't tell if I was rolling or walking. Oh boy. But anyway, I had fun. I really enjoyed my years in Georgia. I really did. And I really didn't know, and that's probably going to come under another topic, I think, about segregation, how bad things were in that end about.
We can start talking about that now.
Well, when I went up there, I knew here how it was. We couldn't go here. There were signs up, and we had to be careful where we went and such as that. But when I went over there, I was received so openly with everybody, and I thought, wow, I was so comfortable. And then I remember the very first trip back to Georgia that I came home for a holiday, and then I had, for the first time, nobody was driving me back to school. I was going to have to go on the Greyhound. And when I stepped off the bus, we stopped in, I want to say Mississippi, but I think it's Mobile. Went to step off the bus because it was lunchtime or something, and they made a stop there, and they told us we could get down for, say, half an hour or something. Well, when I went to step off the bus, I looked up and I saw the signs, but they were white only and colored only. And I'm thinking, because here I was used to Indian, white and Indians not allowed, and stuff like that. And I didn't know which door to go. I was totally confused. And the bus driver just took me by the elbow and steered me towards the white entrance and says, man, look, go over here. You can go over here. This is where you go. And just did it that way. And I just, so that was my first shock, confusion about that somewhere else, other than here. Then when I got to Georgia, there were two other girls from this area somewhere that came to that school, and I kind of knew of that family, and supposedly they were part African American, but they I don't know I don't know the whole story, except that I do know their dad had a lot of money. He was in big business, construction and all, and they got to go over there. He paid for all three, maybe he had 2 or 3 daughters going through that school before I got there. And they attended school with my friend that went ahead of me, Eva, and they were received well and everything. And the girls on campus, that's one thing I have to say, no matter how they were brought up, whether through segregation times and what, all those girls on that campus, and they had more problems than what I thought I had problems. I didn't have any problems. They came from homes that something happened in their home, and that's where they generally, it was a good place for them. But nobody ever talked about it, and we didn't know about each other's problem that way, about home life and what. And we all lived everybody was happy with each other. And these two girls, you could tell they were and they were of the ancestry that their culture was African American. Uh, I think there had to have been some kind of, I think a relative or somebody way back was Houma Indian. So anyway, but there was no question that, I mean, they were just did well, there. But they never really got friendly with me, or they were ahead of me too. They were more with Eva's group, and then I didn't see anybody else that I just wondered about. And then everybody just kind of were good to each other. But when we went to church, I know they got a lot of stares, and just kind of, I don't know. I know there was some uncomfortableness there for a little while here and there, but I didn't realize it right away. I was just a kid that was just there and watching what was going on, what my part was there. But life was good, and we went on with, but later on, in later life, when I lived in the Alabama, and I really saw segregation like I thought we had segregation bad here. We didn't have any problem, And so, but anyway, those high school years were good for me because of the people, and just, I have to
So-
say the Methodist Church really helped me in more ways than one. Clothing, everything.
So going through that, having, I guess, kind of that protection while you're in the school, and dealing with segregation, I imagine in Georgia, well, their churches probably weren't segregated, were they? Since the schools weren't
Yes,
segregated?
they were.
They were?
The church in Thomasville, where the school was, yes, we did not see any African American person ever into the churches. It was just white people and me and the other girls.
So it's just the girls that went to the school. If they were a
Yes.
different race, they were the only ones allowed in there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Okay. So the school, was it, I guess, because I know you said that they had some girls there that their parents paid their tuition, but other girls like you that had the community pay for their tuition, was it mainly for girls from like poor homes or troubled homes? You said a
Well,
lot of the
one
girls
of
had
the things, the community center saw through fundraising from within the church to pay for my tuition. But I found out that the director and his wife from the community center that were, helping me to stay over there, they would attend the school board meetings here every night to try to convince the school board that they had to help with that tuition. They did not want me into the school. They'd rather, so they went ahead and paid a little bit of my tuition. I just learned this 40 years after I had graduated from the school. And I was working for Terrebonne Parish School Board when I found this out. One of the older men that used to be on the school board when these my friends would visit attend the school board meeting to convince them. He told me himself, he said, we paid for part of your tuition for you to go to the school, I was shocked because they didn't want to, they would rather pay a little bit of a tuition for me to be away, that far away in another state to go to school, than to have me go sit in a classroom with the other children here. You know what I mean? The white children, or anybody, any school. It just, to this day, it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's really
Instead
ridiculous
of opening the
that they would do
school and
that.
letting us go in, they would rather pay for one person for 4 years to go out in where they had to pay part of my tuition to keep me out of the classroom,
Hmm.
their classroom of white kids.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I know you said that at one point, I guess in the 4 years that you were gone, your family had learned to speak English. And French was still being used, of course. But
Yes.
did they learn that from the Dulac Indian mission there? Because I know that, they didn't have,
The English,
they didn't, especially like your parents, did they speak English to you, or was it just French, and who taught them?
no, they could speak English, but they didn't speak English to me. They would speak just French to me. But the community learned through the, from the people, the outsider that came through the community and all that. So our people learned the English pretty well, in that respect. And two, they worked in the field and everywhere with the African Americans and, learned that English. I don't know of any African American that really spoke French fluently, but they, we learned our English from a lot of them. Because like my mom, she had to work in the sugarcane field for a while, and she would pick it up there. My dad worked in the fields too, and let's see, they would learn from the other people in the community, about speaking English. But in the house, we all spoke French. That's one thing about the Cajuns, and the difference with our people is that the Cajuns, when they started school, because they were going to be punished if they spoke English, the mom and the dad made up their mind to just speak English to their children all the time, themselves. And so when they would come in from school, they had to speak English all the time at school, and when they come back home, they continued to speak English. Their parents had learned English and kept talking English, so they lost a lot of their French. And our people, even though it wasn't wanted, English wasn't to be spoken at school, like at Miss Hooper's school, and always still, she wanted us to learn English. But when we got at home in the afternoon, everybody was rattling away in French, and we kept talking at home in French. It didn't hurt us any, either way. So that's because a lot of I've had friends, Cajun friends, tell me, "Oh, I wish my mom and them would have kept talking French to me because I can't remember a whole lot anymore." And that's what happened.
Did Miss Hooper have any sort of a punishment if you did speak French, or was it just that she didn't understand and wasn't able to communicate with you?
Right. She didn't understand and couldn't communicate, so she was trying to keep it just English, and then she knew we would need that English down the road, so
Also,
everybody
Ms.
had
Corine, I wanted to ask you if you were aware of anyone else at the Terrebonne Parish School District or school board paid for them to go out of state or to a boarding school in the state of Louisiana. Do you know if anyone else that they were funding?
I don't know of anyone else. I really don't. And I think the only reason they did is because these people was on their back every month of every meeting. I think that was kind of different. Nobody used to bump the school board. How do you say it?
Sounds like they were really advocating for you.
Yes, exactly.
When you say these people, are you talking about the Methodist Mission or the Dulac Community Center?
The Dulac Community Center and the Dulac Indian Mission is the same. It's just that the Dulac Indian Mission was there before the Dulac Community Center. it provided the school. The Dulac Indian Mission had the school into it. And then once the school board took over, then they went ahead and spent money building the Dulac Community Center to just have activities for the families and the community as a whole, but not educating the children, not any space to put money into to, you know, just have classrooms and stuff. That they didn't do what the school board should have done, should be doing. I mean,
Gotcha. So it was the people from the Indian mission who were going to the Terrebonne
Yes.
Parish school board meetings and advocating for you to get into school.
yes, that's right. That's right.
And were there
This is way before.
a different option for like, so they were advocating for you to be able to continue with your education, and would there have been other options to do that in Louisiana? Or at that time they wouldn't have, there wasn't another option of a place that would have accepted Indian students?
I don't think there was anything else. Not in my time, not at that, not in the 50s, unless it was to be a priest or maybe, or
It had to be a
I
religion.
never heard of any other. But I did say that the Baptists had a school that they did get some of their Bayou people to attend. In I want to say Eunice. I want to say the school was in Eunice, Louisiana. Have you ever heard of Sunray?
Cedric
A
Sunray?
guy who?
Cedric Sunray?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the one that gave me some information on that about the Pointe-à-Chat people, and gave me a copy of some of the people that the students that had attended this Eunice school from
Okay.
you know the other side of the bayou.
Okay. Yeah, we interviewed him a
Another
few years ago. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Back with him. Thanks for sharing about this. It
Real
helps.
quick
Like,
before I forget, because I'm so forgetful. Speaking of Sunray, when the federal department came to, where was it? They came to Lafayette or New Orleans or to meet with Tunica, Biloxi. They came here and had all the state recognized tribes come together. Do you remember that a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago? Came to Tunica, Biloxi place.
I don't.
Anyway, the federal government came in and it had something to do with boarding schools. Well, everybody knew from this end that I had gone to a boarding school, so they wanted to get me up there so I could talk about the boarding school and all this stuff. Well, I didn't realize that they were really wanted to be told about the bad things that happened at a boarding school and stuff like that. Well, I got up there. I didn't have anything bad to say. Everything that happened to me, I had a good life at the boarding school, you know, and I don't think that they like that. But I don't want to be funny about it. I'm just saying that I didn't have anything bad to say. But I know that a lot of others have, and I really don't think that the students from Pointe-à-Chat either had a bad time like they have, you know, from the things that happen with the reservation kids and other kids across the country, which is not good at all. And I think if I'd have heard about that when I was fixing to go away, I probably wouldn't have gone away, but we didn't know about things like that or what was to happen. But it just so happened that this was good school for us.
I wonder if the difference was that, because I think a lot of that's probably true now too, as they're, you know, all these new stories in the news about these mass graves they're finding at sites that had been formerly Indian school boarding schools. I wonder if the difference was that your boarding school wasn't mostly for Indian students. It sounds like you were the only one, really. So it was a boarding school mostly for Methodists, and it sounded like mostly other white students.
They had one girl. Well, let me see. They had, when I was there was only one other girl that was Indian, and that was the first time, by the way, that I met another Indian student other than myself, knowing another Indian student. She was from the Cherokee tribe, and we're still friends and talk every once in a while to this day. But there was also two girls that came, that was there ahead of me. Ahead of me. And later on, one of them became chief of the Cherokee tribe, and I can't remember her name right now. But she became chief of the Cherokee tribe there for a period of time. And they know about, but I don't think they liked it over there, because this girl stayed only, the one that went to school with me, she's Carol Fulton was her name. Carol Fuller, excuse me. She only stayed, I don't even know if she stayed the whole year. The first time, the year she was there. And then the other girls, I really don't think that they stayed 4 years, the ones from the Cherokee tribe. I don't think they did. I never heard that they did. But they did, like that one that became chief, she stayed maybe 2 years. And
You know, after sorry.
What's that?
I was just curious, do you know if you were mentioning a couple, only one other girl or two other girls who they had supported like that before. Do you know if they continue to support other students, or especially other female homeless students, to go to Georgia or to other boarding schools? Did they continue?
No, because they had, by that time, the school board had moved in. After me, the school board moved in to accept the responsibility, and Degville School opened at that time, was opening just after I left, Degville came into play with starting a high school. They had elementary there, but for the kids that live in the Houma area. Then they came up with the high school, starting 1 grade at a time. And so
they wouldn't have
I didn't hear, no,
that makes sense, because you were really kind of like right before sort of the brown versus black red integration.
Right before segregation, yeah. And that's why when I'm the oldest one just about that goes to the meetings as often as I do, because most of my friends my age, their education is not there, they just, they don't have high school education, or even, I think most of them, they would go up to the 4th grade. I can remember that. I can remember some of my classmates in the 4th grade dropping out. They could do that like you're a grown up, and you could, 4th, 5th grade. And back in those years too, mama would keep you home if she had a lot of babies around the house. You had to help with the babies, and you had to do, or maybe help with a little job, It was in my day, in my time. So it really was different once segregation came in, and then, the kids had a choice, a little bit more of a choice.
Miss Corine,
How-
this is a bit of a it might be a bit of a rude question, but it's 2021, and I just want to get a good context of this. Are you comfortable telling us how old you are?
I'm 79. That's why I can't hear in one ear anymore. And my memory is kind of very short. So just bear with me, ladies. But
No,
no,
but
I'm
that helps.
having fun with it.
This is a lot of fun. No, it just helps me put into context when you're saying, you're the generation that, like you're talking about your peers and your education. It helps to understand what your age is to better understand that and better understand other people within our community.
Mhm. Well, all of my best friends right now that I'm hanging out with, so to speak, are all still in the work world. They're still, well, except, let's see, yeah, because we were gonna, like, for instance, 3 of my good friends are younger than me, and I remember just before I retired that I kept saying, oh, I had this dream of getting on this bus, and me and my 2 friends, and we would go all over the place, or we'd drive, or whatever the case was. I was excited. When I retired, they still had to work because they had to put in more years, and, and here I am sitting at the house having to wait for them to, and I'm still waiting. So there you go. But anyway, I think because I was away from the community, and then I married and moved away, out of Louisiana for some time, and I came back. I didn't have really any more best friend my age, and and really most of them have passed away now, pretty much. The ones that I was close to, and even a couple of my nieces that are my age, and it hasn't been too much fun, not having somebody my age, to just be with me. So it's in the tribal. Everybody, when the chief was handing out those baskets of food when he first came into his job, and every time he'd always say, the oldest person, would sign and had to put our age. So the oldest person would get, well, for, I don't know, about 4 meetings, I was the oldest one. I got the basket every time. Well, poor chief, he didn't know what to. So one time, and I was so embarrassed because we had company. Some businessman was attending our meeting, and chief said, "Okay, is anybody here that's older than Miss Corine?" I was so embarrassed. And but anyway, they're just it's just that way because I missed out on something from the community during that time to grow up with my friends that I had as a child, or they didn't keep going to try to find, anything for themselves, or nobody made them an offer as well as I was so lucky to get.
Miss Corine, as we're kind of thinking about what happened after school and how you got plugged into the workforce and got one of your first jobs early on was the Terrebonne General Hospital.
Yes.
In a previous interview, you shared with us that in order to get things done at that time in your life, you found that one of the best approaches you could use was to encourage the white man to believe that whatever idea it was that you'd like to accomplish was his own. And I imagine that was a very difficult time. You had to navigate a very white dominated space. And I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been. So I'm wondering if you were able to talk to your younger self and mentor her through that experience now, looking back. Are there any words of wisdom that you'd share with your younger Miss Corrine self on just how to get things done?
Well, let me see. I think we got kind of confused on something here. That part about the making you think it's the person think it's their idea, that came from when I was working at the school board office, and Kirby and I worked together on programs that we felt like, you know how people have a way, well, they had a way of thinking that they, and this, I remember this from childhood with grown-ups talking about it. The white man, even the missionary, coming in and telling us they know best what we need as a people, you know. And so after I was in the job for 5 years, Kirby came in, and then we started working good together to put some good programs through the school for our children. We felt like they needed this. And so we started working on different things, and what they wouldn't listen to us, or you know what I mean, didn't mind too much of what we said, until we got the idea that we had to make them hear us. So one of the things is to come up with something and work it in a way that our supervisor make them think it's their idea. You know, kind of, sometimes you have to do that with a man. You have to make them think it's their idea. And so we're working together in a sense, you know, to put this out. And in the meantime, we get our part into what we want for our children, you know, for the better part. And so this is the way we've worked with the programs. A lot of time we had to do that, and that's not good, you know. It's good and not good, I guess. But that was where that kind of belonged on that. But the other thing about Terrebonne General, that was before I went to work for the school board. I was looking for a job and just came in from out of state, and I thought things had changed because I had been away and segregation had come in and everybody looked happy with each other, and you know, well, it was far from that. But I did get a job. I was the first person to work into the front office at the old Terrebonne General. And but unfortunately, I had to take the job of an older white woman, and that didn't go too well. I could hear whispers. She had made friends there. She had been there long, you know, and so I could sense the people whispering, you know, or whatever. They wouldn't have too much to say to me at first for a while. And then as time went on and I kind of settled in, and the man that hired me, who's a priest today, I thought he was the best human being, you know, since sliced bread. And I just wanted to know, I knew I could just work well with him, and he worked well with me. He was always so attentive to see that I did everything as much as I could, and worked with other people well and everything. But one day, this friend of mine that was from out of state but had come in and lived a few months, I guess her husband was in the oil field, and they had good friends that were from here, Cajun people. And all the time, though, I didn't know what her feelings were towards my people. But today I wonder, what did she think I was? Who did she see in me? Because I did look very Indian. And then, so anyway, one day I had to work the outpatient's desk, and we had to work together, she and I. And she went into the emergency room where a lady that had been working the floors there, a redheaded lady. She was all over the place, helping here and there, and she always had a money problem and stuff. She had all kind of problems, but anyway, she went in there, and evidently, the lady said something really ugly about me, and referred to me as a Sabine. And boy, my friend comes running back to my desk, and she was, Corine, Mary says this and that, and on and on. And oh my gosh, it just, she couldn't believe that this person accused me of being who I am. And she just didn't even let me talk. So I told her, when you calm down and we're gonna be okay, we're gonna talk. But she kind of ignored me after. And so it was making me nervous, and I didn't know how to handle this right on the spot. So I decided to go to my supervisor, because I felt like if anybody could fix this, he could. He was such a nice, sweet man, and he had come in from New Orleans. And I remember the one thing I remembered about him, he used to have us spell Chapatula, because that's where he lived, and he always wanted, to make everything just funny and happy. So I went to him, and he had me come in his office, and I remember he had 7 children, and unfortunately his wife got killed in something or other. But anyway, I tell him the situation, and he just sat back and he looked at me for a moment, and he said, "Well, do you plan to live here for a long time?" And I said, "Yes, this is my home. I came back home. This is home. I do plan, this is where I'm going to live." He says, "Well, I guess you're just going to have to get used to it." And I'm telling you, it just broke my heart. I just couldn't believe this man was saying it that way to me, and that in a way that a don't care attitude kind of. I couldn't believe it was the same person talking to me. And I was very, very hurt, and I didn't know the next step, where to go or what. Well, I stayed there for the rest of the time for a few months, maybe a couple of months, 3 months. But I started putting it together in my head that I needed to move on to something, find some other job. I just thought I should. And so I made a list of all the businesses in Houma where I thought I could go ahead and apply for a job. And I saw that nothing had changed, and so I had to be careful. And I started one day just going from one job to the other. And when it came to the school board, I know that before I went to work for the hospital, I had gone into the school board for a job, and they didn't even look at me. They just took my application, said nobody could see me, this, that, and the other. So then I decided this time I'm on my second time around to go look for a job. So I said, I was coming near the school board office, and I said, "Oh, can't go over there. I already went, and they didn't give me the time of day." But then I went down the block, and I turned around, and I said, "Nope, I'm going to go back." So I turned around, came back, and I went in and said, I was in to to see someone about a job. And sure enough, she says, "Hold on just a second." She called somebody, and I waited, and she said, "Somebody's going to see you." And come to find out, it was about this Indian education job. And that's where the man asked me, my supervisor asked me, if I had read about it in the paper. How did I know about this job? And I said, "I didn't. I'm just dropping in, I'm looking for a job." And so he looked at my application and everything, and resume and everything. And he said, "Well, I see you went out of town, out of state for school, boarding school." He says, And then he leans real low down to me and halfway whispers, he says, "You were in trouble, weren't you?" And I said, "No." And it was just, I don't know. So
So I guess
anyway,
people in the
I
community
got,
knew that if you went to a boarding school, you were probably from a troubled home. I guess, is that, do you
yeah,
think that's why he
probably
did that?
so. Maybe he was emphasizing something. So my, so after the next day, I had a call from his supervisor. And then they wanted me to come back in, and I came back in, and the other man said, uh, I had to be hired, and I liked the other man, and so anyway, that's where, and then I stayed for quite a while, and I went out of state
Miss
and
Curry,
moved to, uh-huh,
I have a question for you. It sounds like what happened at the hospital kind of forced you to
uh-huh,
look for a new job.
yes,
It wasn't really a situation that you could stay in and feel comfortable in, and
right,
understandably so. So if, I guess, just back to the question from before, if you were to, now being someone with so much wisdom and experience, kind of mentor your younger self, what would you encourage her to do in that situation? Would it be try and stay and make it work? Would it be find something that is a more supportive environment? What would be kind of if you're talking to your younger self, how would you encourage that person to navigate the situation?
I think to go and find something else, because I kind of did that. I think I'd do it over again because of the atmosphere that I was working in. If I'd have stayed there, I don't think I would have, I don't know. I don't think it would have been good for me. And so I think I would, even then, if I would do it all over again.
So
Yeah.
you're pleased with your choice and you feel like that really led you on to better things.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
You would encourage your younger self to venture forth because it ended up working out for the better, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
And
But
when we were listening, I'm sorry.
When I see that priest, now that he's a priest, I just don't know if I ever should go to him. I mentioned it one time to him about just having worked at the hospital. Do you remember me? And this, that. Oh yes, I remember you. But then he didn't like wanted to venture into talking. And of course he's older now and everything. And I'm over it pretty much, except that I still have that memory. But I mean, I don't dwell on it so that it's,
Do you think that it would be helpful to ever talk through that experience with him? Is that something that, with the help of maybe a third party, it could be helpful to just have some healing, and explain how that made you feel with the priest? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought about it. I thought about writing him, but that's not the good idea. I thought about it, but I don't know. And he's up in a retirement home now. And, he's, I don't think I want to awaken anything I know it's unpleasant for me, but I think it's going to take care of itself. Put away now. I'm ready to put it away, and I think there are people like that in the world, and they react on the moment, and I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I think about it all the time, but the more my thinking is turning to let it go, So I think that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask, so we can move on from there too.
Yeah.
When I know you after that you went into the school board and they hired you due to needing a place for people to teach in Indian education. Are they the ones that sent you to Nashville for the kindergarten training?
No, that was with the Dulac Community Center.
Oh, okay.
Because when I came back
Go ahead.
from Georgia, upon graduation, my mother had cancer and I had to come back to Dulac and I had to find a job. So these same people that encouraged me to go, they were still director there and they knew I needed a job and they wanted, they were like parents to me, I'll tell you that. And they said, well, we have to put another person here. We have an opening for a kindergarten teacher. But it was going to be a half a day job, kindergarten, and then the office in the afternoon. And that worked out real good.
So that was in 1961, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not 51. No, it was 61.
61. Yeah. So did
61.
I know in 94 it was on paper that segregation ended, but it was like 1964 when the Civil Rights Act came into play.
Yes.
So did you face any challenges due to racism in Nashville? Because I'm not familiar with Nashville during that era, but I know.
No, I was just up there for 6 weeks.
Okay.
For training. Mm-hmm.
And I
and
guess
I was
it was
with
due
some other
through
minority people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, through the Methodist Church.
Yes.
Okay, so you still had that kind of protection like you had in Georgia. As long as you were with the school, you were okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so then when you came home, you started being a kindergarten teacher at the community center. I guess now it was a community center, not a mission.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
part-time secretary. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so how many, I guess you said the community center, they built 3 rooms and things like that. So how many teachers did they have there? Like they had the kindergarten?
Well,
was
the Dulac Community Center was much bigger. The 3 rooms were the Dulac Indian Mission.
Oh, okay.
The Dulac Community Center was a gymnasium and 2, 3 large kindergarten rooms. And let me tell you, that kindergarten program was the best the state of Louisiana had. I'm telling you, it was supported well financially and material wise. Those kids had everything. Those grown-ups today that went to kindergarten, attended kindergarten there, they still talk about the parents were so proud to have their child go through kindergarten at Dulac Community Center.
Miss Corine, I'm a bit confused because we've been referring to the community center and the Indian Mission as almost synonymous, but now you're kind of referring to them separately as different spaces. Can you explain a little bit?
That's where I went to work, not to school. The Dulac Indian Mission, I attended school there. I was a kid. And then Dulac Community Center was 1961 on up, with activities as an adult, young adult.
Okay, so you're just referring to the change in name?
Well, the activities, everything was different. It's like they shut down. The Dulac Indian Mission provided our education classes that the school board was not offering. And they had activities for the community aside. And then when the school board came in and opened the doors for education and built a schoolhouse across the street, then the Dulac Indian Mission closed, shut down. No more Dulac Indian Mission. They built a Dulac Community Center that took its place with all the the community activities only, no education classes other than the kindergarten classes that the school board was not, kindergarten wasn't active at that time. I mean, with kindergarten, it wasn't offering kindergarten. School board was only offering first grade through eighth grade and then high school, to the others.
Was kindergarten across the board for any ethnicity, not something offered by Terrebonne School Board, or was that unique to our community?
Kindergarten was just not offered by the Terrebonne Parish School Board, and Dulac just took it on because they had an opportunity to offer something else to the community, that would be helpful. It was to prepare them, these little children, to enter the regular school when it was time.
Okay, thank you very much for explaining.
I had another question about the directors. You said that they changed directors, the community building changed directors. What year was that when the directors changed? Do you remember?
They, the two, Carl and Mildred Brunson, were there from the time I started with the Dulac. I was a young kid at Dulac Indian Mission. Then they were in charge of building the Dulac Community Center. So they stayed there until 65, I believe.
Okay.
They stayed 10 years. Let's put it that way. They were in Dulac over right at 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember you saying that when the community directors changed, so did the relationship between the workers that were hired and the community. So I was wondering if it was just because the community director, the new one, wasn't there long and didn't follow, I guess, the unspoken guidelines of the mission, since the mission was no longer there. It was just a community center. If they didn't follow the unspoken guidelines with the workers, and so didn't follow really the United Methodist Church's guidelines of reparations and towards Indian people. I want to know your thoughts about that. Like, do you think that's why? Because it wasn't really just Methodist people coming in, it wasn't missionaries, it was just regular people.
Oh yes, that was the board of missions for the Methodist Church. They opened their hiring procedures to include you didn't have to be a Methodist. Pretty much when the Dulac Indian Mission was in place, it was all their hiring was Methodist people, pretty much. And then when the Dulac Community Center was built, it was only to a certain, I guess, for a few years, but over time, the New York office said anybody that's qualified, that is looking for a job and can work with children, it's open. The hiring is open to them too, whoever they are, if they qualify.
So did you know about the UMC Book of Resolutions as a child, or anything like, did they talk about that? Because I'm wondering if that was something that the reason why the relationship changed, if they opened a book to anyone who wasn't Methodist. Because usually if you're involved in a church, then you have to like kind of agree to follow these resolutions if you're gonna, represent them.
They had the Methodist Church itself handled so much of it, but then the Methodist women is apart from the actual just Methodist Church. They handled another part of it, and they had another board that came into play with the United Methodist Women, and there was new sets of rules there, new sets of guidelines or whatever
Oh,
over
okay.
the years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, how did that, I know with that relationship between you and the Methodist Church and all the ways they helped you, how did that experience shape the way you related back to your people in your community when you went back, and how you represented your people? Do you feel like it shaped and like carved out a specific path for you, like how you want it to be, or how you taught the kids in the community center?
I don't think it affected me in any way because I still looked at the Dulac Mission Community Center all in one as in my mind, and how the community people were still, nothing had changed, not too much. And I was, it didn't really change a whole lot for me. I just knew that it was a place of service, and that if I wanted to be a part of it now as an adult, I could do that, you know. And like with the girls' club and anything else I was involved, I sat on the board for the Dulac Community Center for a number of years and stuff like that.
That's pretty exciting. What all did it entail when you were on the board? What kind of decisions were you involved in making for the community?
Oh boy, I don't remember too much except that, let's see, what took place at the time I was on the board. Um, I had been away and I came back, and by that time they had built the residence down the street from the community center. And they also, at the time that I was on the board, they also had these work groups that would come in from different areas of the country, our country here, to work on families' homes that had been damaged by the hurricanes. And they started offering, activities like computers started coming in, and stuff like that. They started having plants. I mean, teaching people how to get back to gardening, so that they can have fresh vegetables. And the community center started building, doing something like that on the side of the building so that the families could see, look here, and just the number of things that the community was going to have to change and grow into with different things that would be good and good for the community and the children, as a whole. And they, have the clothing sales, supplies and stuff that they may need. Let's see, I know there's more. They also built a building that would house the people that would come in for a couple of weeks at a time, to work in the community after hurricanes.
Were they doing the food shelf at that time too, for people
Yes,
to be?
they've been doing that for a number of years now. Mm-hmm.
What else did the girls group, after you had led it for a few years, did that continue, or did that?
No, it didn't. It sure didn't. I don't know why, but it just didn't. Nobody picked up on it, and it just didn't. There, I don't know that they ever had anything that was just the girls' club, such as that. I really didn't keep up with the programs after the time because I think I had moved, and but I know that they didn't have girls' club. They didn't. Nobody took it on, because it would have been good for somebody from the community, like I was from the community, to work with the girls.
What were some of your favorite things? You've talked a little bit about that in one of our other conversations, but some of your favorite memories of things that you did that you wish, if that could start again, what were some of the best things that you remember doing with them in the girls group?
I think when I introduced them to some of them they heard about prom, high school prom, but they had never really done anything or seen anything that they just didn't know they'd ever take part in it. They didn't know, some of them didn't always graduate, even. And so I went over to a used place, that house all kind of closed, charity place, and I asked if they had any kind of prom dresses such as that, and they said sure. And I told her how many I needed, about 12 I think it was, and they pulled these pretty little dresses for me, and I went over there and they were so excited. So what we did, they wore it, but we had a maypole dance, and that's an old thing, a maypole dance, but still it's colorful and it's pretty, and
Yeah.
if you have the right music and everything.
Oh, that's fun. So you did your own prom.
Oh, so we went ahead and they wore their dress, for each ribbon of the maypole. I hear are you still there?
Yeah, sorry about that. Sometimes
Oh, okay.
like there's some feedback.
Um,
I think we fixed it though.
Okay. For each one of their dresses, their color, the ribbon would match their dress, and we had music outside of the Dulac Community Center. Somebody put a big pole and fixed it up pretty, and then we had music outside, and we had invited the community to come out and sit and watch us do our maypole dance. I think I remember that. Oh boy, that's going to stay in my mind forever. And then too, I took them on a couple of trips. We went to that place in Texas that it's an what do you call it? They have all kinds of rides and stuff.
The Astro World?
No, it's something smaller. Anyway,
was it
it's
Schlitterbuns?
something like,
I think maybe the water place. No.
no. I don't know, but they had rides and all kinds of stuff. We spent all day there. It was a big thing that always was there for a while, around Houston or somewhere. And so anyway, we went on a weekend. I mean, like a 2-day thing, and I had a couple of ladies from the community to help me with the girls, and stuff. And then we had one of the ladies had a van, and with the other had a car, and so we did it that way. And just stuff like that. But it's the maypole dance that really stands in my. And then too, we learned how to do table setting, and just stuff that I thought, they would need down the road, that they needed to be introduced to, that I knew they weren't getting at home.
Did you ever talk to them about the importance of staying in school? Was there any emphasis on education?
Oh yes, we did that. That really was. And then, at that time, new programs started coming in, and the community center itself had a couple of programs. They had several programs to offer them. They had tutoring classes and different, that was coming in at that time. So we we took care of different things, you know. It was just and to start working with them, it was like just something out of the blue that came to me to say, well, look at these little girls. The community center was boarded up because of Hurricane Juan, I believe it was. And so they had no place to go and nothing to do. So they'd come in every afternoon and sit on the steps of the community center, even though it was boarded up. And I stopped one day. I used to go down that street to visit my relatives. And so one day I stopped and talked to them and asked them what they were doing, what they, you know, and one thing and another. And I said, you know what, maybe we ought to get together and I can come down and we can do something. We'll think of something to do. And that's how it started, just on a whim, and just saying, yeah, we don't know what we want to do, but we'll talk about it. And then the community center was still closed to us. We couldn't use the building there, but the church, Kirby's church across the street, they allowed us to come into the church and use the church to meet for a time until we were able to get in the community center. And we, I think we had baked goods or something one time, and just different things we would try out. And, but mostly, we encouraged the girls with the education classes that the community came in with later.
So, for the girls club, do you think that's kind of what inspired you to do the elder club, the one that you're working on with Janie and the other ladies?
I guess it's because we've always tried to help each other, you know. And so wherever we see that there's a need, you know, we would jump in and fill in and see what we could do to help. Most of the time, that's what's been happening here the last few years. And that's possibly, you know.
Yeah. So I know that with you working with the girls back then, and then even the elder club meeting with the elderly ladies and, like, you know, just adult women, how do you feel the roles of women have changed? Because obviously, you know, they have changed from when you were a child, and then even points that, you know, when the girls club, continuing education, encouraging them to continue their education instead of becoming a wife and a mother, you know, as a teen, you know. And then even now, like, what would you like to see Indigenous women specifically today achieve, now that we have the opportunities to achieve things that you didn't maybe when you were younger?
I'll tell you what, there's so many doors open today. And I think it's just a matter of, if you want it, you can achieve it. You know, you have to just put your thinking cap on and see what you can do, and go at it and try, you know. And most of the time you'll find that you can get just about anywhere you want to. And I think that a lot of our young people are catching on to, the world is yours. You just, you know, get out there and reach for it and make it happen, you know. There's so much out. I mean, I can't believe the changes that's come about. That's so, it's like it looks so easy. I know it's not, but it just looks so much easier than what we had. But at the same time, it's exciting to see and hear about all of our young people. I can't get over how many young people of our people are, the first thing, they're going to college more and more. When I was working with Indian education, I would call Nichols every day to find out how many of our students were registered, and they would work with me and let me know. And today it's a little harder to get through to say how many, because some of them you're not sure they're registered as American Indian or Native American or whatever. And then um, they're just getting leaving. I know that high school is not preparing them as well as some other places for college. I hear that all the time. But we have so many more young people now that are just going after it themselves. Some of them are going without, they don't have a scholarship or anything. They don't really have a whole lot of help, but they're going some way, somehow. They're getting through it. And I'm really, I'm amazed at all of this. They're moving, you know, in the right direction. And I think they're learning to think for themselves in a better way than we did when we were young. You know, of course, everything is so different now. It's amazing.
One of the things that I'm thinking of is that we haven't talked about yet is, and I know we're coming close to time on stuff, is your role as an elder. I know that you want to talk a little bit about what that means and what that change has been for you.
It's been great. The young people, I feel like, respect me a lot, and I didn't think at one point that, you know, they're not talking about me, you know, but they are, and they're respecting our older people. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's sweet. And I know that I can't participate anymore like I used to. I jump into just any group, you know, and now I'm having to back away from a lot of groups that I'd like to participate in. I can't think straight anymore, and I'm slower in my hearing and this, that. I could go on. But here at the house, I keep busy with telling the story. I feel like if I can't get out there and do it, I do have that left. So that's why I'm writing my personal family story. And at first, I started to tell just about the family per se. But then I thought, you know what? I grew up in Dulac, and there's so much to tell there, from so many happenings through my childhood and young adult, before I became a young adult. I need to tell somebody. I need to tell the whole story and the school thing and everything. And because even my grandchildren and my youngest son, he doesn't know the whole story of my life, you know. And I want them to know, you know, what they need to know. And so I'm taking joy in writing this. The only thing is I keep running into trouble a little bit. I have to slow down. I can't type anymore like I used to. I can't see anymore like I used to with this. So we're working on something right now. My granddaughter's ordering me this computer that's going to be better for my eyes, and just everything about it's going to be, I don't have to hunt for anything. Everything that I'm needing to work is going to be like in boxes. So, you know, I'll be able to not have the thing of trying to remember, where do I go for this or that, you know. We're going to have it attuned to me, you know. And but I need to finish that. I need to finish writing that story, and it's going to involve from segregation to the floods and the hurricanes and the fires, and the hurricane, and the people in general, how they treated us, and just, you know, just anything and everything that happened in the community. Like I had to go to the sheriff's office, how it used to be in the 50s. And if you were a young girl and had to go to the sheriff's office, There were no women back then, and just all kinds of things that affected my life.
Are there any
So-
autobiographies that you've written that inspired you or that you're hoping to model yours after?
I don't think so, but the ones that I did read kind of encouraged me to go ahead and write, about the family and where we lived and what my brothers. My oldest brother, before they died, because they all died except me now, and I racked their brains to tell me about their life where they used to live further down the bayou, down way out there in the Gulf. There's no more land there, no longer land, but they had a life there. And this picture in the living room is my life there, my lifeline, because I look at it and it makes me remember some of the things I know I have to talk about in my story. And it's, just this Palmetto roof house on a bright, almost on the bayou side, and the house that I was born in. And it's just there's so much to tell there. And so, I just want to play with that for the time being.
So part of telling your own story is also telling their story that hasn't really been documented.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was asking if that's something that you really want to get down on paper, is the story of kind of the generation before you, since they were so much older than you.
Yeah, they were so much older, but they kind of just told me whatever I asked them, and it wasn't too much, because really I have a sister that I never dreamed was going to die so young, and I didn't get her story. She's the one that was 5 years older than me. And then my youngest brother here that just died, I didn't get his story. I just get from his children and his wife, bits and pieces. And then what I remember that was told to me. And so it takes a lot of thinking and trying to remember. And I'm losing that. I'm losing the memory thing. I'm scared to death of not remembering things that I should still, remember. But other than that, I just keep writing and just thinking that, it's gonna work.
Well, we're so impressed with your memory, and I think that hearing your story and sharing this story with your family and with others, this is going to be such a hugely valuable resource for everyone, to remember your stories. It really is. We're so impressed with your memory. So
Impressed with my memory? Oh, goodness.
read it.
Well, I certainly have enjoyed working with you girls, and hopefully we can, we can really stay in touch and really, and I'm looking forward to the gathering, and oh boy.
Well, also we're really inspired to hear that another homo woman, wanted to share her story. There aren't that many women that we have to hear their story. A lot of the stories that are told from a male perspective. So we're really grateful to you for taking the initiative to do that, because that's really important.
Well, I just wanted to do this because I knew I was going to get to talk to y'all. That's the only time I talk to y'all so much. But I had something else I wanted to say to Brittany, and is it Brittany? Did we say Brittany?
Yes, ma'am, it's Brittany.
Okay, yeah, and it was about that lesson. Oh gosh, I can't think of it now. When I think about it, I'll let her know what it was I had on my mind. Something more I wanted to comment on that class that she knew of that I did. Oh well.
Oh,
Okay.
about the giving our hearts away?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh,
That was interesting, but like I said, I changed a little of it and patterned it to our people.
yeah.
Because how else are they gonna really know my part, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And see,
Mhm.
I researched all that too, because that was the only time that, I had ever heard of they're having a class like that. The Catholic, I think it's the
Yeah.
Catholic Church in Dulac. They have the Sanctuary Mass or whatever, but they don't have classes like you had did or anything like that. And I don't even think they do that anywhere else anymore either, unless
And I
they're
think
like,
that was about 10 years ago, it seems like it.
yeah,
It
unless
was
they're
some
overseas.
time back, and they were, yeah. It's amazing to me, though. Every time I get up in front of a group of people here or anywhere like that, it's like they're hearing about us for the first time. You know,
Yeah.
it's really amazing.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
like what Rochelle says. You don't ever really hear anything about
yeah,
our people especially from the women in our tribe. It's always the
yeah,
men. We joke around that Homa
uh-huh,
men sometimes
exactly,
peacock a lot. They like to
exactly.
show off. But you don't really learn anything from them. You just see them and then that's it. It's really like the women are the
Yeah,
ones behind the scenes making things happen and
yes,
doing things
exactly.
along with
Uh-huh.
men.
That's right, exactly. And we got to turn that around.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I don't know if that was an accident.
oh goodness.
But yeah,
Well, I
you're
certainly
an inspiration for us, Miss Corine.
well,
Yeah.
well, one day I'm going to have a little something here at my house, and I want y'all to come. I'm not sure what we're going to have and when, but my granddaughter and I was talking about it the other day, and I said we're gonna do something here, and I want all those ladies over here.
We'd love that.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah.
Well, go ahead and accept our RSVP now.
Yeah, I imagine we
Okay.
might all be able to see each other for the gathering if, knock on wood, that happens. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's true, huh? Oh, I can hardly wait. I'm getting my dress made here
Nice.
pretty soon. Oh boy! And listen, there's something that's on a DVD, I guess it is, or CD at the library, and it's on Mr. Thomas Dion. Tom Dion, that's Howard Dion's father. Do y'all know who I'm talking about?
I've heard of them.
Oh,
My dad's talked about him a lot.
Alana. Yeah. Well, there's this real good video, and you should listen to it. You should hear it. I'm going to try to make a copy of it. See if the library is going to allow me to make a copy of it.
Oh, that would be
And
nice.
I think you should listen to this. And he talks about segregation, how people treated us, and he talks about something. I thought that we think of older people as always having been here, but they lived in another community moving. I wondered, my brother-in-law's his brother, and he came here. I wondered why they wanted to be buried. My brother-in-law is buried in Lower Montague, which is Point Bade. Lower Montague is Point Bade. It used to be. And so my sister's buried over here, his wife, but he's buried in Montague, where the family plot. Well, Tom Dion tells in his story that they came from another, and I can't remember what community he told me they came from, but his family came from another community to Port Barre, and so that's why I found out my brother-in-law wanted to be buried over there, because that's family, but they came from another community, and I was so excited to hear all of this, and I think y'all should listen to this tape. You'll find it very interesting.
Yeah, that
Love
sounds
to.
great.
Yeah, you get a copy of
Children,
it.
I wanted his children to talk more about his life and all that stuff, because they have all his paperwork and stuff. And because, he was instrumental in bringing a bus full of our men, and I wish they'd do that today, to the steps of Baton Rouge Capitol to get, in regards to education, to get our people some education. He did things in the community for our people that was amazing. But anyway, y'all need to hear this tape. So I'm going to try to get a
Did you
copy.
say that it was at the library?
It was at here at the main library. Yeah, it is.
At the Terrebonne Library?
Yes. In fact, I have it here at the house. I checked it out.
Oh, wow.
But I have to return it. I should have returned it yesterday.
No.
But they're good. They know me. I'm in and out of there so often. They just, So
It's
but,
like on an
yeah,
audio. It's on an audio cassette tape or a CD?
it's audio. Is it audio? Anyway, I had it. It's a CD I put on my music box over there, and I could put it on where the and that's I heard the whole thing,
Yeah.
the whole interview.
Huh. I wonder if we could get we can, like, similar to the way we're recording stuff and we're recording this conversation. I wonder if it would be possible for us to, like, hook the audio input to this, and we just kind of make a digital copy by listening to it.
Yeah, I think that could work.
Yeah.
We may be able to even call the library and see if, just so that we don't technically, like, I don't know, avoid any copyright issues, but maybe we could see if they could send us a
Okay.
copy, or we could get one.
I was going to take it to Mel, at the office, and get her to make a copy, but she was going to get permission from the library.
Mhm.
So let me ask her and see if she got permission, and maybe she can make you a copy.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'm looking in our
Okay.
Zotero drive, and it looks like we have record of it, but we don't have, like, the file doesn't work. So they do have a
Oh,
digital
okay.
copy. They do have a digital copy of
Okay.
it, but we don't have, the one that we have doesn't play anymore.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah.
And I just talked to Louise and asked her. She used to live on Old Bridge Road in Dulac,
Mhm.
and that was before the new bridge came in right there. And there's a lot of things that happened right there with the two stores. Both of them was owned by white people, and we used to have to come across that bridge, walk. We would walk everywhere in the community and visit the community on this side of the bridge. And they would throw rocks at us and just tell us stuff, and this, that, and the other. And they wouldn't let us. We could only come into the front of the store where the groceries was. We couldn't go any other part. Like, they had a dance hall and little area where people could be entertained or something, whatever. But they didn't allow us. We will only had certain place there. But the store across the bridge, closer to the Indian community right there, it was open to anybody, black, white, anybody. And it was mostly Indians that visited there, and they had a jukebox, and they would let us teenagers go hang out there and play the jukebox and stuff like that, And there's a little story right down that street. I'm telling you, I told Louise, oh, you got to do something, write your memories down of that little area, and how things were. And, each little piece of community has a story. Everybody's got a story.
Do you think that Luis, maybe if you two were together, maybe we could do one of these recordings if you're together, and we could have her share the story and record it?
Oh, sure, she would do that. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure.
That would be awesome. I'd love to hear from her.
That would be super neat. And I
Yeah.
think, Corine, you would do it, like, having you, who knows the story, be able to, like, help us get that story from her. That would be super helpful.
Maybe I can. I can remember old stuff from a long time ago. I can't remember from a while ago. Oh my goodness, y'all, my children are gonna have fun with me as I get older. Oh my gosh. I'll be
Well,
walking up.
If
New
Luis is
Orleans.
interested, that would be great. Maybe if we can
Okay.
find a time the next time we all talk, we could see if Luis wants to
Okay.
join.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That would be great.
Well, ladies,
Yeah,
I
I told my friends I'll be walking up New Orleans Boulevard one day, not knowing where I am. And one of my nieces and nephew, they always go by there, and they'll stop and say, "Miss Corine, get in the car. Aunt Corine, get in the car."
She's on the loose.
Who's on the loop.
But anyway,
Well, ladies, I just
okay, girlies,
yeah,
I enjoyed this so much.
yeah.
Us too.
We did
I know
too.
I
We
talked too
appreciate
much.
your time so much and also your willingness to be vulnerable and share about very personal things in your life. We really appreciate you opening
Well,
up to us and confiding in us
and
and
I'm
trusting
sorry I
us.
blabbered on where I wasn't supposed to.
It's your
It's
life,
all
it's your story. Yeah.
Well, I hope to meet Alana one day soon. Hope
I
to
hope
meet,
so too.
I think, oh, well, Brittany, she went to camp with us, but I can't, I need to meet with her again.
Yeah, you'd
And,
you'd probably see my face and then we're like, oh, I remember you and your sisters, because all three of us went there.
So it's going to be fun. All right.
Someday soon.
Yeah. Well, until next time, guys, we'll see you guys next interview.
All right.
Okay, y'all.
Everyone.
Take care. Be safe.
right.
Okay.
You have a good
Love
day.
you.
Love y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. I think we're good.